Yeah, hey Harold, are you coming on? Yeah. Okay, let me. Okay, you have something to write with? Okay. Phone number, area code 214-765. Yeah, 765-0479. And then the participant code is 7464515. And then you just hit pound and you'll be in the call. Yeah. So just give it a call and we'll have you on in just a sec. Jesse's on the call also. Okay. You should hear him come right on. Carrier pigeon.
Are you there, Harold?
Hello.
Hi, Harold.
Hi, Harold.
Yeah, we're in. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting.
Let's turn down the volume.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Didn't know it was the first time ever. First time I've ever heard him loud.
We'll now call to order the meeting of the Winters City Council on Tuesday, March 17th. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Sure, Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauren. Here. Councilmember New,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cowan,
Here.
Mayor Biassi.
Here. Thank you. Dan McGuire, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So with us, everyone, as you can see, we have two of our council members that are calling in on the conference call to join our meeting tonight, Councilmember Anderson and Councilmember Lauren. So, we'll go on to approval of the agenda.
Mayor and Council, a couple of things to move around on the agenda. Staff's requesting that we just move discussion item number 3, the presentation on the comprehensive annual financial report, up to be consent calendar item G.
Move to approve with said change.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. I think you might be a little bit delayed, Jesse and Harold, so we hear you. Okay, I'm gonna
Okay,
move
so I
on.
think the way for me to do comments is to, maybe just speak with the microphone on, but mute my own audio because I'm getting feedback. Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start your, council,
okay.
comments. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. On March 5th through 8th, Mayor Pro Tem Cowan and I attended local policymakers conference in Yosemite called The Great Pivot. Boy, they didn't know how important that title was. It was conference jam-packed with presentations. I took 9 pages of notes, and I'm just going to highlight the most important parts of the conference. The content was heavy on housing, homelessness, transportation, the power grid, PG&E, CPA, and the PSP event. Highlights. Transportation is the highest contributor to greenhouse gases. Cities need to be partners in planning routes and lanes to help reduce car miles traveled. Housing. We need to do a lot of engagement for housing. It's common for issues to be weaponized against cities if cities aren't taking the lead on engagement and collaboration. Cities need more engagement to address homelessness, increase opportunities for rapid response, building empathy, landlord engagement, mental health care, and diversion strategies. Back to housing. Housing, not building shrinking growth areas, will gentrify your community. This was from California Chief Service Officer who presented on things each community could do for emergencies. This is part of the PSP event presentation. He said we need a social fabric to unify during the times of internet superconnection. He asked us to look into LISTA at www.listofcalifornia.org and a program called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, at www.ready.gov/CERT. Talked about AmeriCorps, about Civic Spark Fellows, and disaster relief from AmeriCorps. He asked cities to connect with calvolunteers.org. Something called Climate Corps, and he also said that the Civic Spark has an equity toolkit that cities might want to look into. Another presenter said something I thought was great. The 2 things people hate, the status quo and change. 2 more, democracy functions best when there's trust, and there were many presentations on energy, and I hope Wade talked to them. Going further, we got back, and then on March 9th, I attended an Elder Day meeting, followed by a WRA Water Resource and YSDA Groundwater Executive meeting. In the evening, I participated in the Yolo County Transportation District meeting. That was March 9th. And we discussed new electric buses, how they're coming online, and we have new route changes coming, and how getting input from residents and renters is super important. And so we were planning those meetings. And then on March 10th, Councilmember New and I participated in several hours of climate action plan interviews. We were astounded by the depth, the breadth, and knowledge of the climate issues our community knew. We had more people than slots to fill. We both hope that people who weren't initially selected will continue to attend and possibly help form the commission that will be created later. On March 12th, Mayor Pro Tem Cowan and I attended the Valley Clean Energy meeting, and it was followed by the retirement event of Woodland City Manager Paul Navazio. It was great. On March 13th, I attended a meeting with council and will be happily leave that for somebody else to address. As you know, things started to really go sideways with the COVID-19 outbreak, and more information was coming to cities around March 13th. And by March 16th, which was Monday, many of the agents that we served started to be impacted by the safety precautions. And personally, I'm calling this time period the elected and appointed safety decision Olympics. On March 16th, I participated as a co-chair for the WRA and Groundwater Resource Agency meetings. We used the platform Zoom because any of us weren't able to meet in person. Tim O'Halloran stepped down as the longtime lead of the agency, and Kristen Sickey was selected as our new director. We are trying to meet all the deadlines of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and we're just going to need to figure out how to hold public meetings and so forth to complete our documents in a timely manner under these new conditions. To report a little bit on our water supply source is not at 100% supply yet for the flood district. Dunnigan is at 50%. Indian Lake Reservoir and Clear Lake have enough water for this year, but not enough water for next year. Bay Delta adopted decisions on water that are being challenged by the state attorney general over the incident take amount. There was a presentation by DWR, Department of Water Resources. They're reviewing groundwater plans, preliminary plans across the state. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. They plan on hiring consultants to address the review needs of all the state subbasin plans. NACWA adopted 2020 priorities, but they didn't present them. We had a legislative analyst bring all the new bills, including bills on land use conversion on critically overdrafted areas and climate resilience bonds. One bill I thought the city should look at is SB 971. It's a drinking water bill with significant requirements. We should follow that bill. I was informed that RCRC, the Rural Counties Group, and League of Cities are developing a response. And I haven't seen that response yet. There was a presentation on Chrome 6 and the new MCLs, and I believe our city manager knows more about that than the legislative analyst. After that meeting, later on Monday night, I had an emergency phone call meeting with Yolo County Transportation District. It was in the middle of dinner. We have another emergency meeting tomorrow night. Basically, the lockdowns and what we need to do for health reasons has reduced ridership and fares, and we have to be nimble in making planning decisions. We want to be able to retain employees, but we also want to remain solvent. So we're trying to make plans to meet the moment. We still have health workers who need to get to UTA Davis Medical Center, and we still want to address the needs of rural communities. Our planning response has long-term effects, so we're just working on what to do that's going to be best for the community under this new paradigm. Today, I met with City Manager John Donlevy about tonight's agenda, and I've been on the phone and email contact with the county supervisor and other, electeds and other agencies. And lastly, the last thing I just want to include is that on a personal note, I just want to thank everyone who's been so flexible, staying home and being social distancing warriors. I just want to assure folks that we're doing everything we can to keep the community healthy, even when it's not fun. And I just wanted to say how grateful I am for my fellow council members and for the city manager. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lauren. Next we have Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mary. Mayor, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start off on with my report on Wednesday, March 11th. I attended the Air Quality Management District meeting in Davis with Carol Tiana. Thanks to Carol, I got hitched a ride with her over there. And most of the topics presented were dealt with ozone measures. On Thursday, March 12th, attended the Lower Trader Creek Committee was to meet on the 12th, but the meeting was canceled due to the coronavirus, the COVID issue. And the schedule yet to be announced. And on Friday the 13th, attended the city manager's performance evaluation closed session at the fire district. With the city manager's presence and no action was taken. And I will offer to anyone who hasn't done so yet, it's time to, you can register with the census survey online. I've done it already, it's free process to go through. If you're so inclined, it would help. And getting future grants and benefits from the federal government. And today, I have been on the phone with the city manager at the conference on the agenda. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember New.
Thank you. On Thursday, the 5th of the month, I attended the SACOG Land Use and Natural Resources meeting. The main subject of the meeting was, again, the RENA numbers and what's going on with the governor and the state as far as changing things that may make it very hard to meet deadlines. On the 9th, Monday, I attended the Elder Day planning meeting. On the 10th, I interviewed for the CAP interviews, the Climate Action Plan Committee with Councilperson Lauren. And then on the 10th, after that, I went by the car show, see how that was going. On the 13th, Friday, I was in attendance for the city manager's performance evaluation meeting, nothing to report out. On the 16th, I had a Yellow Habitat Conservancy meeting, but we did it by phone. And then on the 17th, met with city manager this morning to discuss tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kellen.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 5th, I attended the Executive Commission to Address Homelessness in Davis, for which I now sit on the board. They've got a lot of new ideas for addressing homeless within Yellow County that they're going to be moving forward with very soon, especially with an influx of new money from the state and the county. So hopefully they're going to help that out quite a bit in the near future. As mentioned by Councilmember Lauren, from the 5th to the 8th, I also attended the Local Government Commission Conference in Yosemite. And as she mentioned, there was a lot of really good speakers. One of them was the executive director for the Marin County CCA, which was one of the first ones formed. And what was kind of interesting to see is almost every city represented at this conference, from one end of the state to the other, is in some fashion involved in a CCA, like Valley Clean Energy. So There's 19 of them out there now, and they're going pretty strong. And there was a lot of talk at the conference about how everybody's handling the CCA situation with the PG&E bankruptcy and all those kinds of things. So it was a really good conference. On the 9th, I attended a youth day meeting. And then they also had a meeting last night, which I wasn't able to make, but the decision was made to cancel this year's 84th Youth Day. The only other time Youth Day's been canceled was for World War II. So I guess they'll have the 84th next year. I also attended the first car show of the season. And then along with Councilmember Lauren, I did Planning Commission interviews on the 12th. And I also attended the Valley Clean Energy Board meeting on the 12th, along with Councilmember Lauren. And the board gave some emergency powers to the executive director due to the COVID-19. And because they've got power agreements coming up and stuff that, you know, they feel is really important if they keep those on a certain schedule. And then the winners team, Jesse and I, we basically stopped the board from supporting SB 917 by Senator Wiener due to the concerns we had for the future of the gas training facility located here in Winters. It's such a big part of our economic situation here in Winters, because there wasn't any clear definition in the bill as to how they were going to handle the gas side, because what that bill is his desire for the state of California to take over all of the IOUs, which are investor-owned utilities like PG&E. So we want to know a whole lot more about that before we support that kind of legislation when we've got the investment we do out here for the PG&E gas facility. And then I also attended the retirement party for Winter City Manager Paul Navazia. And on the 13th, I also attended the city manager evaluation, followed by 3 more planning commission interviews with the mayor. And then today I met with the city manager to review the agenda. And I also attended a all-staff meeting for an update on the COVID-19 situation in Yolo County. That's all I have.
Thank you, everyone. On the 10th, I also attended the car show, first one of the year, hopefully not the last one. And on the 13th, that we had the closed session meeting for performance evaluation at the public safety facility. And as was said earlier, there was no reportable action from that. On the 13th, we held planning commissioner interviews along with Mayor Pro Tem Cowan for 3 of the applicants. And on the 17th, we had a phone conference with the city manager and Councilmember Lauren for tonight's agenda review. A couple other meetings I had scheduled were canceled due to the COVID-19. So thank you, everyone, for all of your time. Yeah.
Just say something real quick.
Yes, we did.
I just wanted, for the benefit of the record and the public, I wanted to note that the reason why Councilmember Lauren and Councilmember Anderson are on the phone tonight is because as part of the COVID-19 response, the governor signed an executive order that during the emergency period, he waived certain provisions of the Brown Act. And one of those is that it allows, for as long as you have a meeting in a public place, it allows council members to call in telephonically and participate that way so they can practice social distancing. And so the city manager offered that up to the councils as an option. So I just want people to understand this isn't going to be a regular occurrence, but given the current situation, we're giving that as an option. And the other thing is, I wanted to suggest that when we get to the regular calendar, that you take all actions on a roll call vote, so it's easier for Tracy to hear how people vote since there is that delay that you mentioned.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Okay.
Great.
Next, we'll move on to any public comments, but anything that is not on tonight's agenda. This is your time to come forward? Is there anyone there in the audience? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the consent calendar.
Mayor and Council, a couple of items tonight. Item A are the minutes from the regular meeting on March 3rd. Item B is our annual housing element progress report. This is submitted to the State Housing and Community Development Agency or Department. And for everybody's wondering how many houses were officially built in Winters last year, 45. Item C is the recommended appointees to the Climate Action Plan Development Board. Gar House, Jennifer Urquhart, Ken Britton, Sam Warren, Kelly Lindill, and Sean Yarns, who as an alternate. Item D is a resolution of the council approving a budget adjustment of $90,000. This is for the emergency generator and lighting project for the El Rio Via lift station with Yolo County Housing. Item E is a request from the Winters Senior Commission on Aging. This is one thing that we'll need to have somebody volunteer to serve as a council liaison to the commission. Item F is the street closure request for the Holden Philbrook, Hugs for Holden Memorial Car and Motorcycle Show. Item G, which was discussion item number 3, is just, it was going to be a presentation on the comprehensive annual financial report. No action on this, it is what it is, but it will be a presentation which actually will be included as part of the overall budget review that we'll have. And I know talking with Council Member Anderson today, he indicated that he would be recusing himself from item F.
Okay.
Based on proximity of property owned.
Oh, is there a copy of the comprehensive annual financial report available in the City Hall for people to look at?
It is available online.
Online.
Yeah, actually it went online before it. It's been there for literally over a month.
Okay. Any questions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Before he makes a motion, please, this is Councilman Anderson confirming that due to location, this is not participating in item F. And I also have another location conflict on item 4 of the discussion item. That's my 2 location issues.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. Okay, Councilmember Laura. would
Somebody
you-
needs to mute that.
These piano serenade.
Gerald, I think your phone has something going on. You might want to mute it.
And it's a clock.
7 o'clock.
Let's go faster so we don't.
Okay, Councilmember Lauren, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the additional item of item 3 as G, and that's, yeah, just move it.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm being distracted by my dog barking. This is very weird for me, sorry.
We do need somebody to volunteer or appoint somebody to be a liaison to the Winters Senior Commission.
When do they meet?
Second Wednesday of every month.
In the evening or?
From 5:30 to 6:30.
I'll do it. Yeah, I can.
okay. Mayor Pro Tem Cowan said he would be our liaison for the Senior Commission on Aging. This is approved, so thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Tracy, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauren,
Yes,
Councilmember New,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Cowan,
Yes,
Mayor Bianchi.
Yes. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We have no presentations tonight. We'll move on to discussion item 1, which is the Walnut Lane Scanning Proposed Affordable Housing Plan. Mr. McGuire.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Staff brings to you tonight the Walnut Lane 10 Affordable Housing Plan. As was the case with many of the developments that have happened over the last decade, the developers proposing the payment of an in lieu fee in lieu of constructing the lows and very lows that would be required by our inclusionary housing ordinance. And that amount is outlined in the staff report. It's roughly $53,000 per affordable unit. And then they will construct the moderates as part of the project build out. Tonight's item has nothing to do with entitlement. It's simply presenting the affordable housing plan, which is helpful to a property owner in terms of sort of establishing cost certainty on aspects of the development. I think most of the council members, either through participation in the Affordable Housing Steering Committee or attending the Planning Commission meeting, are familiar with the methodology of how we got to that number. I think from a staff perspective, I would rather focus on some of the attachments to the staff report because the city council made a strategic decision back in the early 10,000s, if you will, 2010, 2011, to shift to a program of accepting affordable housing plans that included in lieu fees. And so to that end, staff has included in the attachments kind of an accounting that tells us what kind of war chest we're building. Staff thinks it's very important to keep score. If we accept in lieu fee payments, we accept the responsibility for making sure those units are produced. And I think you can see from the attachment that's first titled the Housing Trust Fund, that over the life of in lieu fees going forward to include this proposal, we would accumulate a war chest after Blue Mountain Terrace of in excess of $3 million. And staff certainly feels confident that that's enough to have the local leverage needed for the next great affordable housing project. We also included a score sheet on the actual production. And I think it's interesting, the projects that have already been approved for affordable housing plans generated an obligation of 63 units. 62 units of that 63 will be fulfilled through the completion of the Blue Mountain Terrace Harbor project. So again, staff felt it was important to just kind of revisit this from a 50,000 foot view. So the staff recommendation is for City Council to approve the affordable housing plan. It's unanimously supported by both the Affordable Housing Steering Committee and the Planning Commission. And staff would entertain any questions.
Okay, questions? Councilmember Lauren or Councilmember New or Anderson, do you have any questions for Mr. McGuire?
Hello, Mayor.
Councilmember Lauren?
I just wanted to say thank you for that presentation. I think it's important to let the public know the history of how we're balancing our portfolio of houses. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We'll see if there's anybody in the public that would like to ask any questions. Seeing none, okay. I know I attended the Planning Commission meeting where this was discussed, as well as the Affordable Housing Steering Committee meetings, and there are several questions that have come up from time to time, not just from those meetings, but other times about, why are we taking the in lieu fees and that. I think you explained part of that very well, that, that affords us to be able to build some of these other complexes that we're working on. And the other concern is that we don't concentrate all of our affordable housing in one area. And as can be seen on the map on the wall over here, we have it spread out in various locations around the city. I think we're doing a good job in not concentrating it. So to me, it looks like a very good proposal. I would say one thing. I know it was reported in the Winters Express, I believe, last week, and it was not really worded, I don't think, in a way that people might understand. They said that a $53,000 in lieu payment will be made for construction of the affordable in lieu, instead of building the other units. And it didn't say 53,000 per unit, which, Dan, you had mentioned that tonight. It's per unit.
Exactly, and that's a great call, Mayor. It will actually generate $319,176 for the affordable units that the city is taking responsibility for. 53,000 per unit, but 319,000 overall.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll make the motion to approve the Walnut Lane 10 affordable housing plan.
We have a motion. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
We have a second. Thank you, Councilmember Doran. Okay, no other discussion. I will call for a roll call vote, please, Tracy.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauren,
Yes,
and Councilmember New,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Callen,
Yes.
Mayor Biazi.
Yes, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Now, before Dan sits down, this may be one of Dan's last official presentations before.
Well, that depends. Do we have the funding for the senior center?
We do not.
Then it's not his last meeting.
The reality
I'm
is,
working on it though.
the reality is that Dan doesn't care at this point. But I'd like to acknowledge Dan just real quickly. How many years?
13.
13 years. And before that, Dan served as the executive director for the chamber. And Dan actually was the guy who really helped position the Earthquake Festival during that time. I met Dan at about 2:00 in the morning trying to crank down a light tower after an Earthquake Festival. That's where I met Dan. Dan's been our point person on really most of the projects, which I would say led to the Renaissance in Winters. The downtown master plan, 4 phases of the infrastructure. If it wasn't for Dan, we wouldn't have been driving that oversized golf cart, shuttling people into restaurants. He oversaw it with our redevelopment programs, our facade rehabilitation program, which led to 27 storefronts being done, which probably brought in close to $1 million of really true investment for what we did. Leveraging that money was brilliant, and Dan was the guy in charge of it. Tonight we're talking about affordable housing. Orchard Village, Almondwood, Blue Mountain Terrace apartments that are under construction right now, the cottages, all have been McGuire all over them. The most important thing is that under Dan's management of all of our affordable housing programs, we have built nothing but the highest quality affordable housing that's made a difference. Dan's ability to work with people like legal services and within the community facilitated homes for families, not just building affordable units, but units for families. Dan is the architect of Walnut Park, including, I think, the orange shade structure that went up. I went out there, it's like, what the hell, Dan?
The lights nicely.
The senior programs that are evolving in the community, there's nobody that's had a more important role than Dan. He oversaw the grant. Dan's actually brought in literally millions of dollars of grants, and we've given some of them back to position ourselves. Winters businesses are a lot better because of Dan. The business development programs that he's worked with to integrate, has actually facilitated a whole new curriculum with the Winters Joint Unified School District. Dan was also on the school board. The hotel Winters wouldn't be there without Dan. Eventually, when I filed a workers' comp case against the city for my hearing impairment for the them taking out the concrete, will all be Dan's fault. But the hotel Winters wouldn't be there without Dan literally pulling it across the finish line, including about a $250,000 hole over there that's full of toxic historic outhouse poo that was discovered. But most importantly, tonight what the council has adopted $319,000 going towards projects. Dan's stewardship of the Affordable Housing Steering Committee, working with legal services, working with each one of the developers to bring a reasonable program. Affordable housing is only built because you can generate funds that then can be leveraged. And our overall strategy on that, the difference between Winters, California, and so many other communities is that we actually are getting it built, and that's because of Dan. Without question, he's positioned all the things, except for the fact that he's abandoning us. And next week he's getting on a plane to Hawaii.
He thinks.
Maybe.
Yeah, right.
Not to his chateau in Italy, because I think it's probably quarantined now. But anyway, Dan certainly has made an impression on Winters and our team. I probably credit him as much as anybody for where Winters is today with so many of the programs. So anyway, a little bit for Dan. Yeah, he certainly has done a great job for us on everything. And by the way, for he and Carol, we're going to have a party whenever they tell us they're ready for their party.
We have multiple 10 people parties.
Yeah, we forgot one important thing. We probably wouldn't have had a beer wagon at any event in the city over the last 15 years if it wasn't for Dan.
The money's in beer income.
So Dan, we do, on behalf of the council, I know we thank you for all your work you've done for the city over the years you've worked here. We really appreciate it, and we do wish you the best in your retirement.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Actually, we're hoping that the whole financial crisis is wiped out his 401 plan, so that eventually he'll come back groveling for his job, and that he'll come back after public employees, they have to wait 6 months. So in 6 months, hopefully he's crying
Can't they
outside the
suspend the
door.
retirement and go back to work?
Well, they might.
Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to discussion item number 2. Approval of contract with Leishowitz and Sang Municipal Consultants.
We love it when we refer to them now as L&T, as the consultants, as the council's aware. As part of a number of things we've done, we refunded in 2018 our water and sewer bonds. Part of that included a overall look at the rates. It had been 4 years prior that we had done an official rate study. We did the refunding, and we in 2018. But one of the things that we did say is that we would be bringing back to the council the need for doing an additional rate study. The council authorized the requests for proposals for a rate study. We received a number of proposals, and this one not only was the lowest qualified bid, but we did some checks. They've done a number of local communities, and staff is recommending that the council award in the amount of $38,720 L&T Consulting.
Okay. Any questions on council?
No.
Questions in public?
No,
No questions? No discussion? Anyone? Okay. Now I'll open it up for motion.
I move the staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Tracy, do we have a roll call vote? please?
Councilmember Anderson,
yes,
Councilmember Lauren,
Affirmative.
Councilmember New,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Callan,
Yes.
Mayor Bianchi.
Yes. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Much as I hate you, I know we need to look at our rates again for water and sewer. So
Yeah.
hopefully they're going lower. The last discussion item we're going to have tonight will be the historic preservation policy.
Mayor and Council, under the Winters Municipal Code, the Planning Commission is now designated as the Historic Preservation Commission. At the last Planning Commission meeting,
Mayor, excuse me, I just want to make clear that I'm not, have a location conflict on this matter.
Thank you.
I'm not participating. Thank you.
so the Planning Commission had a design review for a property on Russell Street. And the property is amongst one of the houses in our cultural resources inventory that was done back in 1983. The thing that's so interesting about that study is that it not only included a very knowledgeable and well-meaning group of residents of Winters, but it also included this State Office of Historic Preservation for the state. In total, they went through, they designated the downtown and got it registered as a historic district. It identified 79 structures and properties within the city, which went into the cultural resources study. And in total, it identified 14 different residences in the city, including the property that went before the Planning Commission for registry with the National Historic Registry of Places. During that whole process, one of the things that we learned as we went through, because the cultural resources study is actually something that is very important to the city of Winters. What we learned is that absent some type of local design review or standards regarding your historic structures, it doesn't matter. The most historic building or structures in town can be completely just torn down if you really want to. It really is up to the property owner. The Planning Commission and I think the property owner went through the overall design review on the property within the parameters that they had. Leaving that though, I think what staff realized is that there needs to be a policy. We have a couple of houses on Russell Street. We have some houses on Main Street. But I will share with you that there are some streets in town, Edward Street, who has some of the most historic houses in town. They're on great lots. The one thing about Winters is that, especially downtown in the core, those are all premium lots. They sell much higher than any lot based on its proximity to our downtown. So really, we now have about 13 houses, which I would categorize as being at risk. Staff's recommending that the council direct the Planning Commission to both hold workshops and work with staff on coming up with an overall design review criteria and some standards for how some of the historic structures are reviewed and considered on things. Combination of a couple of things. First, staff will do a little bit of research and bring some common standards that are used in other communities. But I think probably one of the things the planning commission needs to do is go through and establish a procedure for how people will go through. It's not that we want to be overly demanding on these, but quite frankly, the idea that you just preserve, a couple of gables and a couple of hips on a roof and then tear the rest of the house down, I think would run very much contrary to the work of the cultural resources inventory, to our general plan, but also the idea of preservation. Because the one thing I know, some of the lots over on Edward Streets that have, in one case, it has a Buckeye house. That would be great. You just go like that. The house isn't the greatest house on earth. You know what you do? You tear it down. That's what you do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but bottom line, staff's requesting that the council direct the planning commission to workshop and work with staff on policy direction of the historic structures in town.
Any questions from the council members? Councilmember Lauren or Councilmember Anderson, any questions?
I only have a comment.
Councilmember Lauren, go ahead.
Anderson's not, yeah, just me. I just have a comment. I think when we think about the identity of the city, of who we are, we're a collaborating city. We value our community, we value our members, but there's a certain physical sense in our community that is based on having that railroad bridge and having a historic downtown and having historic homes and looking to the future. If we're in a position where our boundaries get smaller and we only have a smaller shrinking area for planning, there will be more tear down and they will be without rules in place to protect these historic homes. They will be gone. And I see this as a very important step in retaining the values of who we are.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson?
He's not participating.
Oh, you're not participating. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. I would like to add, Councilmember Lauren, I appreciate those comments. I do think it's very important that we do everything we can to keep the history of Winters, keep the character that made Winters what it is. So I think this is a step forward, and I know this came to our attention because of the project on Russell Street that gives us a good opportunity to put something in place to hopefully preserve future homes that people may want to make changes to that are considered to be historic in our community. So I think this is definitely something that needs to be done sooner, not later.
I agree. I agree with both Councilmember Lauren and the mayor that we need to have the planning commission take a look at this and see what they can come up with and recommend to us, because I think it's real important that we maintain that character in some of those homes. I think it's important.
I agree, and I would move to the item if you like.
Absolutely. Councilmember New will move the staff recommendation. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Tracy, could we have a roll call vote for everyone except for Councilmember Anderson? Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment? Thanks. Okay.
Councilmember Lauren,
Yes.
Councilmember New,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Cowan,
Yes,
Mayor Diaz.
Yes. Motion passes. 4 in favor, 1 abstaining.
Right, recused.
Recused. Okay. Motion passes. Okay, that is our last discussion item. We have the city manager's report.
Mayor and council, tonight is also somebody else's last meeting, officially, Carol Sienna. I will, I think her sojourn out is actually on Friday, and literally the whole world has gone to pot because Carol is leaving. When you talk about the feng shui of everything going out of balance, curveball. I will tell you that I think Carol is probably the person who defined the entire hiring strategy that I have for city staff here. And it's Carol. One of the things that I learned when I became city manager here is that we don't pay what the other cities pay, nowhere even close. And the overall strategy became really simple. That I need to find people who are really smart and who really loved winters. That is the hiring criteria. And Carol embodies that. Carol has probably, she's, as the Public Works Department has evolved over the years, it's Carol's very calm and overly kind demeanor who has allowed us to evolve and actually become so much better than you could ever imagine. The real architect of Poudre Creek has been the persistence of Carol. The Poudre Creek Park Master Plan, the upgrades, actually making things happen. Carol's collaboration with the volunteer groups, with Poudre Creek Council, with everyone bringing them into the creek. Carol is the one whose persistence made the North Bank Trail happen. Whenever you're out there and you see people on that trail, kids on their bikes or whatever, it was Carol who made that happen. Very persistent. If you go out there, there's a whole bunch of elderberry bushes out there. Those are Carol's fault. She's planted like hundreds of elderberry bushes out there. It's great. The car bridge. It took 17 years to build that car bridge, and I don't think it would have happened without Carol. She was our project manager on that, and I think Carol was the one who kept everybody from ultimately going to war with each other between the Yslaho County, the contractor, and us. Carol's always been the voice of reason. The community library wouldn't be there without Carol. I think Carol's been the president of the Winners Friends of the Library at least 30 times. And but Carol's persistence in keeping the thing going, her pragmatism, her collaboration with everybody made all the difference in the world. Our water and wastewater operations, we've spent literally tens of millions of dollars, and so much of it had to do with Carol working with the staff, working with the engineers on everything. I like to tell people that our utilities have really strong bones, and so much of that is attributable to Carol. Most people don't know what a WDR is, but Carol does. That's a waste discharge requirement, WDR, which is actually your permit for being able to operate your wastewater system. Carol's stewardship of groundwater monitoring programs, which are not the greatest things on earth, the old landfill. Carol got the Holy Grail. She actually got a discharge permit for agricultural watering. There was a crack in the window, a microscopic opening that somehow when Jerry Brown said something, somehow Carol got this permit for us to be able to discharge secondary water. There were people calling from all over the state going, how did you do that? Well, I don't know. It was Carol. PG&E project and kind of putting everything together. Carol was an absolute mainstay on that. Carol just pulled stuff out of the hat. If you drive north on Railroad Avenue, you cross the Moody Slough crossing. That is Carol's bridge. Carol would bring these forms into my office. She goes, "You need to sign this. I'm going for this grant." All the engineers had completely poo-pooed this project. No one was paying attention. And Carol tells us that we're building a bridge over Moody Slough out there. It's like, what the heck? Our overall organization has been we've really tried to be can-do, and Carol's really been the heart of all of that. So tonight's a very sad night for me. Carol's probably one of the best people that I've ever worked with. And, you know, I will tell you that for such a nice and easygoing person, I think I've only heard her swear like 3 times. But she certainly has made a difference in this community. And like Dan, I'm hoping that the financial crisis will ruin her financially and that she will have to come back and beg for her job back, because we're giving her 6 months. I've told her that she's always welcome. She can go and muscle whoever out of the office and just come back to work. But Carol certainly has made all the difference for the city. And I believe that she will probably have one of the strongest legacies of anybody who has ever worked for the city. So cheers to Carol.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'll be back.
I would like to say thank you too, Carol. I've worked with you since I think 2006 when I began on the Waters Peter Creek Park Committee, and worked with you through that, and as well as various other roles with the city. So you have put a lot into this city, and we really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy your retirement. We will miss you a lot. Thank you.
I'm going too far.
Just one other item. Okay, so this is virus that's going around that's causing havoc everywhere. We even have council members weren't at the meeting tonight. So today, the city managers had a private briefing with Dr. Ron Chapman, who is the director for health in Yolo County, a gentleman who's the health officer, Governor Bill. Some basics about COVID-19, about 200,000 cases worldwide, about 8,000 deaths. He described it as something that's never been seen by humanity. The area in Italy where it's ravaging is called the Lombardy region. Seattle is probably the hardest hit area in the United States. In Yolo, as of 1 o'clock this afternoon, there are 4 cases. They say there's no treatment, no vaccinations. The biggest concern that they're trying to avoid, the one thing about COVID-19 is that people that are vulnerable, it can really wipe out their entire respiratory system. The problem is that they're worried about overwhelming the entire system. The reason that they have looked at the idea of self-quarantining people is just the idea that if you had too many people flood in with respiratory issues, it would probably overwhelm the system, that people that have heart attacks and other issues would be impacted. So that's why they're looking for the self-quarantine. Sac County this afternoon issued pretty similar things to what's going on in the Bay Area. They're called health officer orders, are the official terms for what they release. And I will tell you that we can probably expect that Yolo County, Placer County, who have been in concert, are going to be releasing something similar to what we've seen in the Bay Area. they sent something out, that's mostly just an outline of, something, the orders that have been issued in the Bay Area counties. There are lots of essential services that they're doing. The overall goal is to knock down this curve. They're trying to stretch out exposure, any issues on things. I expect that sometime probably tomorrow morning, they will come out with the health officer orders. Ultimately, what that may entail is the need for closures, and that may include, it will include Winter City Hall. We do have essential services here, not only our public safety, but most importantly, the water, wastewater, and the maintenance operations that we have in the city. We will be having our employees telecommute and do other things. We will also have opportunities. We still have many functions that we have to do as a business in the city. So expect, we'll probably have scheduling to kind of separate people out a little bit, but we are going to do our best to try and create opportunities for people to pay their bills, for building permitting, all of that stuff. The way that I left it with the staff this afternoon is I asked them to go figure it all out. So tomorrow morning, I figured they're going to figure it all out. So we'll see where we go. So as I get more information, one of the things that we are going to be encouraging, most of our businesses in downtown are mom and pop. They're family-owned businesses, and we can't let them down. They will be open for pickup orders from people. Please, 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 please. People need to patronize those businesses. Tracy and I had Chinese food this afternoon. Order stuff from El Pueblo and Buckhorn and the cafe, a pizza factory, Preserve, Chewy's. Come on, everybody.
Some of them are doing deliveries as well.
Yeah. Give them a call. I'm pushing it on social media. We've got to support these people. That there's a prospect that this whole shutdown thing could last for up to 3 weeks or more. So we need to support these folks. And right now, this is the time. Pizza, Chinese food, you name it. We've got to support these businesses. So from the city perspective, we're going to be pushing as much as we can out on our social media. But at the end of the day, we need people just to pick up the phone and order some Chewy's or El Pueblo or get a pizza or something. So and that's my report.
Jamie, and I would also like to mention, thanks for bringing that up, that Winters is open for business. We have a lot of our restaurants in town that are open for getting takeout food, we have places to park. And I believe also Lorenzo's Market, they're having hours in the morning just for seniors and people with disabilities from 7 to 9 a.m. to come and do shopping so that you can get in there without a bunch of other people being around. So I want everybody to know that that's available as well. And I noticed, I've seen things floating around on Facebook. There's various groups that are offering to go out and buy things for people who can't get out of their house. This is when it shows what the heart of a community like Winters is, where people come together to help each other. And I'm really proud to see everybody in Winters coming together like that. So thank you, everyone. And also just like to mention, we talked about a couple of retirements upcoming very soon, and just want everybody to know that it's not a surprise to the city and the city manager, as well as the council. We've been working, mostly city managers, we've been working on a succession planning on how to fill these vacancies. So it's not something that we're just having people leave and nobody to fill those places. So thank you to the city manager for all your work in that succession planning as well. On that note, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:40. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, your remote social distancing. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating at home and testing our remote calling.
for stepping up.
Oh, sure.
The-
You made it.